Have you ever experienced this? He says he doesn't want anything serious, but he keeps coming back, texting out of nowhere, showing jealousy, and just when you start to move on, he reappears. Why do men do this? Is it just ego? Or is there something deeper happening inside him? In this video, you'll understand what Carl Jung revealed about this male contradiction, and why, even when he says he doesn't want you, he keeps coming back, as if he does. This isn't a story about games. It's a story about inner conflict between the fear of surrender and the unconscious desire to connect. Jung called it a psychic split. On one side, his conscious mind runs from commitment. On the other, his unconscious craves a real bond. And the most curious part? This conflict has nothing to do with you, but everything to do with what you awaken in him. So why does he disappear, if you're exactly what he misses? And more importantly, how can you break this cycle without draining your energy? Stay with me until the end, because this answer might completely change how you see relationships. This message resonates with you. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell. And tell me in the comments, have you ever experienced this masculine paradox? How did you deal with it? You're about to see that the problem was never you, it was his conflict. And now, you'll learn not to carry it as if it were yours. And when he pulls away, what do? Do you try to act indifferent? Go silent for days, hoping he'll miss you? Or do you give in to anxiety and send that message you later regret? The truth is, almost every woman has fallen into this emotional trap. But what no one told you is that your reaction might be fueling the very cycle you want to break, because the more you chase, the more he runs. The more you go silent in anger, the more guilt he feels and disappears. And when you try to pretend not to care, he feels the tension and pulls away even more. Why? Because his fear of surrender can't handle pressure, nor does it understand forced silence, and even less, the game of indifference. It's like all of it triggers an ancient alarm inside him. Danger! I'm going to lose my freedom. And so, he runs. Again. But what if I told you there's another way? One that doesn't depend on the right words, or on disappearing for 3 days just to seem hard to get. A path where you don't need to hide, prove yourself, or beg for anything. Have you ever imagined what would happen if, instead of reacting, you simply emanated presence? Not just any presence, but the kind that doesn't demand, and still attracts. That doesn't force, but transforms. This almost invisible key is what separates the reactive woman from the magnetic one. But how do you become that woman? The answer begins when you stop losing yourself in him and start finding yourself in you. Did you know that the male brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, when he's around a woman he's emotionally drawn to? Yes, that same man who says, "I'm not ready," who disappears without explanation, who seems afraid to get close, is biologically being pulled toward you. So, why does he pull away? That's the paradox. His body craves connection, but his mind fears losing control. It's as if two forces inside him are at war. On one side, the instinct for freedom, ancient, primal, inherited from generations where survival meant staying solitary and invulnerable. On the other, the need for connection, newer, deeper, and far more terrifying. But this war isn't just physical. It's symbolic. It's archetypal. Carl Jung called this inner force the anima, the feminine energy that lives in every man's unconscious. She is the bridge between raw instinct and conscious love. She is the call for integration. And guess what? You are the one who awakens her. But what happens when a man is pulled from within and pushed from without? When his unconscious wants exactly what his ego fears? He has an emotional collapse. And you become, at the same time, the light he's drawn to, and the mirror he avoids. Could it be that's why he comes back, but also why he runs? This conflict isn't logical, it's mythical, it's ancestral. And now that you understand it on this level, the game changes because you stop asking, "What did I do wrong?" and start realizing what you're revealing in him. And if I told you that the fear he feels about you isn't about you at all, it's not about what you said, nor about your intensity. It's not about you being too much. It's about what you awaken in him. There is an ancestral fear that most men carry, even without realizing it. A primitive fear of feminine power, of surrender, of vulnerability, of the possibility of being consumed by something greater than themselves. Jung wrote about this. This energy you carry activates the collective memory of times when emotional dependence meant being at risk, being devoured, being dominated, losing freedom. So when you love with presence, when you look into his eyes with depth, when you don't shrink to please, you trigger the conflict. He wants to come closer, but he fears losing himself. He wants to feel, but he fears not being able to return, and that's why he leaves, even while wanting to stay. So stop asking yourself, was I too intense? Did I scare him away? And start asking, what in me is awakening something he doesn't yet know how to face? This fear isn't your fault. It's a collective memory, an invisible inheritance. But the good news? You don't have to carry it as if it were yours. And you don't need to shrink to seem safe. You just need to remember that a whole woman can be frightening, but she is also transformative. If this touched something within you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share in the comments. Have you ever felt that the problem wasn't you, but what he couldn't handle? Your comment might help other women free themselves from this cycle too. So what does a woman do when she realizes the man in front of her is torn between desire and fear? Does she try to convince him? Hide herself? Bend to fit the space he's able to offer? No. A conscious woman doesn't play that game. She doesn't push, doesn't beg, doesn't shrink. She doesn't need to chase, because she has already arrived in herself. She becomes presence, not a heavy presence that demands, but a magnetic one that shows without saying, that invites without controlling, that touches without pressuring. This woman doesn't live in the anxiety of being chosen, because she has already chosen herself. She knows what she wants, but she's not desperate for an outcome. She stays grounded, open, and free. And that's when everything changes, because the man, in the presence of that energy, feels something he may have never felt before, a call to awaken. It's in this space, where there's no manipulation, no neediness, that he can access something beyond the ego, beyond the game, beyond fear. Carl Jung would call this the activation of Shiva, the force of the conscious masculine, which only awakens in the presence of a whole feminine. But are all men ready for this? Not always. And that's okay, because the role of the conscious woman is not to save anyone. It is only to remain whole and let the other choose, to grow or to walk away. But the most important part is, she does not abandon herself in the process. Never again. And what if you weren't there to complete anyone, but to reveal? What if your emotional field was, in truth, a mirror where he could see himself for the first time? Because when a woman is centered, when she doesn't demand, but also doesn't dim her light, she creates something rare, a space that is both safe and challenging, a place where a man can transform, but only if he wants to. Her presence does not demand, it invites. And within that invitation, something happens. He feels he can grow, or realizes he's not ready yet. And here is the truth almost no one tells you. Not every man will choose to evolve. Not every connection will bloom. And that's okay. The conscious woman knows her role is not to wait forever, nor to sacrifice herself to be the healing ground for someone who doesn't want to be healed. She can love and still draw boundaries. She can hold space without losing herself in him. And within that space, there are three possible paths, all valid, all sacred: to accept the present moment, consciously, without illusions; to set firm boundaries and open up to someone who truly wants to walk beside her; or to remain in the connection by choice, not attachment, being the presence that transforms even if the other never changes. But be aware, he must never be the center. The center is you. Because when a woman makes someone else her mission, she abandons her own soul, and when she reconnects with her essence, she realizes that being alone was never the same as being empty. And what if your true power was never about winning someone over, but about not losing yourself in the process? Many women were raised to believe that love must be earned, that they must be chosen, desired, validated. But what if true love begins the moment you stop asking permission to be who you are? True feminine power doesn't scream. It doesn't demand. It doesn't compete. It simply is. And because it is, it transforms. It's when a woman stops reacting out of fear that she activates a new frequency. She steps out of the cycle of proving her worth and steps into the realm of remembering her worth. And then something curious happens. He feels it, even if he doesn't understand it, even if he fights it, because the woman who honors herself creates an invisible magnetic field. She doesn't chase. She doesn't hide. She becomes a mirror, not a mirror that flatters, but a mirror that reveals. And when a man looks into that mirror, he doesn't just see the woman in front of him. He sees the soul he forgot inside himself. It's in that moment that she stops being an object of desire and becomes a portal to truth. But be warned, not everyone can handle the reflection. Some will run. Others will try to dim that light. But the conscious woman knows it's not about convincing anyone to stay. It's about keeping her own light burning. Because when she lights herself up, she illuminates the path back to herself. So how do you heal a wound that lives between two opposites? Have you ever felt this? One part of you wants to surrender, the other wants to run. One part craves connection, the other seeks freedom. This contradiction is not weakness, it's human. It's the soil of true transformation. Carl Jung said that individuation, the journey to become whole, doesn't happen through perfection, but through the union of internal opposites. It's in the space where desire and fear coexist, where neediness meets strength, where the little girl seeking comfort meets the woman who knows her own worth. And the most fascinating part? Neuroscience now confirms what Jung intuited over a century ago. Our brains are shaped not just by what we avoid, but by what we dare to face. Each time you stay silent to avoid rejection, an old pattern gets stronger. But each time you act with awareness, even in fear, you are rewiring your nervous system. You're training your body to no longer confuse love with anxiety, presence with attachment, surrender with abandonment. And when a woman takes a conscious stand, she doesn't just heal herself, she also activates in the other the potential to heal. She invites him to leave behind the distracted hunter and step into the conscious caretaker, from the man who runs to the man who holds. But be warned, this awakening cannot be forced. It must be allowed, and it always begins with you. And what if victory wasn't about him changing? What if the true triumph was you returning whole from a story that almost broke you apart? We're taught from early on to measure love by reciprocity. If he comes back, if he chooses you, if he stays. But what if true love begins when you choose yourself? even when the other doesn't choose you. You might want him to awaken, to understand, to truly see you. But your healing cannot depend on how the story ends, because sometimes he won't change. Not because you weren't enough, but because he still doesn't know who he is. And that's okay, because when you stop waiting for someone else to validate you and start validating yourself, you reclaim something precious, your energy. You begin to feel clear again. You step out of the maze of doubt and onto the solid ground of your truth. The woman who returns to herself never comes back the same. She comes back greater. She understands that being chosen was never the prize. The real victory is looking in the mirror and seeing a woman who never betrayed herself to be loved. That is strength. That is triumph. And when this woman walks, she doesn't chase love. She attracts what matches her level of consciousness, because the love she seeks already lives inside her. Who is this woman? Who doesn't fall apart when someone pulls away? Who is this woman? Who doesn't need promises to feel safe? Who doesn't beg for presents, but emanates presence? She wasn't born this way. She became her. After stumbling through shallow love, after silencing her intuition just to please, after shrinking herself, hoping to be loved, she got tired. But she didn't harden. She awakened. This woman carries the energy of Sophia, the feminine wisdom Carl Jung described. She doesn't manipulate. She doesn't dramatize. And she doesn't wait to be rescued, because she knows. A relationship isn't a guarantee. It's a reflection of her internal state. And when she is at peace, she doesn't settle for crumbs. When she is full, she doesn't fall for games. When she is conscious, she doesn't lose herself in the other. She reveals herself through the connection. This woman is magnetic, not because she tries, but because she is. She is life pulsing with awareness, mystery with roots, love with boundaries. Do you feel this woman living inside you? Maybe still asleep, maybe just waiting to be remembered. And what if this is your moment to awaken? Because when a woman returns to herself, nothing needs to be forced anymore. Not love, not destiny. Now you know. What once felt confusing has deep roots. His push and pull wasn't a lack of love, but unconscious fear, inner conflict, and what you awaken in him. But more important than understanding him is not forgetting yourself, because when a woman knows who she is, she stops shaping herself to fit. She stops chasing after those who don't know how to stay. She doesn't react. She chooses. She doesn't beg. She radiates. And that is the real miracle. When you turn inward, the entire field changes. Love changes. Connections shift. You change. If this video touched something in you, like it now, subscribe to the channel and share it with other women who need to remember their own power. And tell me in the comments, what part moved you the most? Your story might be the awakening of another woman. And before you go, watch the next video on the channel. It will take everything we started here even deeper. It might be exactly what your soul needs to hear now. Because when one of us awakens, we all feel the call.